So with me is Thomas Rickert. He's Director Names and Numbers at ECHO, Association of the Internet Industry. And today we would like to discuss the ePDP and what it's all about. So Thomas, welcome.
Thanks, Lars.
We cannot assume that all viewers are familiar with ICANN and what ICANN is doing. Can you give us a brief explanation of what it's all about?
Well, data protection or the data protection laws have been a concern in the ICANN world for many, many years. But with GDPR kicking in, ICANN had to do something in order to make its Whois service, which so far was widely open, compliant with applicable data protection laws. And the way ICANN's bylaws are structured, the ICANN board cannot just impose rules on all players, i.e. on all registries and registrars, but what they can do is sort of have emergency rules by virtue of a temporary specification, but afterwards a community process needs to be started, and that's the expedited policy development process that I'm a part of. So I'm a member of the ePDP team that needs to review this emergency policy that the ICANN board has implemented and launched before May 25th, when the GDPR was kicking in.
Can you give us a little bit more background? So when was the ePDP team set in place and what's the current status of its work?
GDPR became effective on May 25th, 2018. And on that day, the temporary specification that was issued by the ICANN board became effective. Shortly thereafter, the GNSO Council has launched the ePDP process, and the ePDP team had its inaugural meeting shortly afterwards. And the way the work was structured was in two phases. So we were discussing a couple of fundamental questions in phase one, and we've submitted our final report to the ICANN board through the GNSO Council. It was adopted there. And now we're in the second phase of the ePDP's work, and that's where we're discussing a system which either automatically or semi-automatically shall process disclosure requests by third parties that want to get access to non-public registration data. So to illustrate this, before the GDPR came into effect, law enforcement, IP lawyers, but you and I, everybody, could look up registration data for basically every domain name in the GTLD world. It was widely open, and that was a concern for data protection experts, lawyers around the world. And this data was then made private, or most of the data was not revealed publicly afterwards. And we're now looking for ways to standardize the process of revealing private data to those who have a legal right to get access to the data. That can be IP holders that want to pursue trademark infringements, that can be law enforcement authorities that need certain data for their investigations, and we're trying to find a way, if at all possible, to make this universally applicable around the globe, to have a standard approach to disclosing data that shall facilitate the efforts for registries and registrars.
So this sounds like that the ePDP and the work that you're currently doing is very important for everyone in the internet industry.
Well, previously it's been heaven on earth for everybody that wanted to get access to personal data, and GDPR stopped that almost overnight. And therefore governments, law enforcement authorities, security practitioners are very concerned that they can't really do their work and prevent bad things from happening, because they can't identify patterns of abusive behavior using the DNS, since all the data is behind closed doors now.
You already mentioned that the GDPR is already in place since May 2018, and you're still currently working in the ePDP team on ensuring GDPR compliance within the ICANN space. Can you give us an idea why is it behind schedule from this perspective, and what are the next steps to get this done?
Well, when Fadi Shehadi, ICANN's previous CEO, did his inaugural speech, he said that there are two issues that can hardly be resolved on this earth. One is the Palestinian conflict, the other is Whois. So I think is a good example to illustrate how difficult this Whois topic is. ICANN has had several groups working on a reform for that directory service, and all of those were not really successful. So I think it's been a huge task for our team to come up with a solution to this issue, where you have vastly diverging views. There are certain parts of the community that want to keep the system more or less as it was before the temporary specification was put into force. And others, privacy advocates, user representative groups, they want to keep as much data as possible private. And therefore we have a huge task that we're working on. And certainly that doesn't resolve itself, to say the least. So even though we're slightly behind schedule, I'm confident that we will be able to submit a final report in the next couple of months. And I think that the upcoming meeting in Montreal will be a major milestone for us to see how much progress we can make. And then we will also learn more about the likeliness of our group to succeed or not.
Thank you. Thomas, you've been heavily involved with being a co-chair on the CCWG accountability during the ICANN transition process. Now you're on the ePDP team. So from your perspective, what will be the next big challenge that ICANN or the ICANN community will face in the close future?
Well, I think the good thing about the ICANN community is that we will never run out of challenges, whether predicted or not. But I think that after this one, possibly the next big thing for ICANN is to come up with a structured approach to launching yet new TLDs.
Thank you very much, Thomas, for being with us, and thank you for the insights about the ePDP and what will come in the near future in the ICANN community. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lars.